I think it can take me a whole day to tell you that. Uh, but I think if I have to simply put it, तो तीन चीज़ें हैं यार. I think सबसे ज़रूरी है जुनून, which is also called as passion, I think, in English. The other thing is unlearning. Uh, you know, this industry had a lot of baggage that had been inherited over the years. And finally, I think with unlearning comes that intuitive ability to therefore innovate, right? Matlab, once you unlearn, so what do you do then, right? So I think you're forced to innovate in the sector. And let me talk briefly about, what each of these mean, So Junoon means, fundamentally, I mean, this deep love for, the joy of meat, uh, the, the innate desire to want to, do something fundamentally right for the meat eater of this country who was otherwise, going from dukan to dukan, from Saturdays to Sundays, going through so much uncertainty. I think it had to come from a place where were deeply passionate, right? And I think that passion really gave us our simple one-line mantra, Vivek and I. I still remember 2015 में, in his big Helion वेंचर्स ऑफिस, उसका कैबिन शायद ऐसे इतना बड़ा सा था, तो वहाँ पे बैठे थे, तो विवेक सेड कि भाई अगर इस मरे हुए मुर्गे में जान डाल सकते हैं तो बात बनेगी. सो while we laughed on it back then, but it was pretty profound, what he said. And I think as we started Licious, the first thing we said is ki we will never sell what we will not feed our own families and children. And I think that's the beauty of passion. If it's simple and if it's pure, people get it. The other thing is unlearning. Yeah, the category had so much baggage, right? And consumer baggage tha, industry baggage tha. Problem was that the category में every participant had dumbed down the consumer. कि यार consumer तो मतलब चिकन तो चिकन है, मछली तो मछली है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, राइट? सो वो कॉन्वर्जेशन इतनी डम डाउन थी ना, वो कंफर्टेबल थी. तो आई थिंक उसको ना फिर फंडामेंटली लिशियस को टर्बो चार्ज करना पड़ा कई सारे इनोवेशंस के थ्रू. बट दिस बैगेज वी हैड टू शेड कि यार नहीं यार, चिकन इज नॉट जस्ट चिकन, राइट? मतलब देयर इज सो मच मोर टू इट. And what Licious is taking to consumers with Junoon, what I just said before, is not gold-plated meat. It is actually what consumers always deserved, right? And finally, यार innovation. तो I think Licious की तो मतलब रग रग में घुसा हुआ है, और मुझे लगता है 7 साल बाद भी to be able to retain that DNA is magical. See, everything that we did, the fact that we said we will not be offline in a channel that was always offline, right? मतलब उसमें तो मतलब the category codes were only ki touch, feel, smell, look, talk, right? I mean, this was the world of conversation in the realms of meat. And then we say, hey, you know what, we'll go D2C. We went D2C because we believe that is the best way to serve the consumer. Look at the other things that we have done. Who would have thought, that the world's first meat-based spread will be born in a country like India? But, that's the DNA of Licious. To be able to imagine an entire supply chain for perishables in a country where cold chain is still a question mark, where 90% of our cold chain in India is dedicated to आलू, है ना? तो वहाँ पे हमने कहा कि हम पूरी सप्लाई चेन बनाएंगे, हम कंज्यूमर के पास जाएंगे. तो आई थिंक दिस हिम्मत, दिस बिलीफ टू इनोवेट केम फ्रॉम द जुनून, that we had, and it also came from our ability to unlearn कि यार ये जो चलता है ये तो नहीं चलेगा. Vivek and I have given a moniker to the VCs of India. We call them the vegetarian capitalists, and no offense, it's in a lighter vein, but the fact was that, back then, everyone we met, at least 90% of those people were somehow, not consumers of the category.
Yeah.
And then they projected their biases towards the category. I think that was the number one problem. Number one problem was that, कि ये problem ही नहीं है, ये कैसी प्रॉब्लम है? एंड गोइंग टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ सम पीपल इवन टेलिंग अस कि यार इससे अच्छा तो पनीर कर लो, so I think this projection of biases did not help. And then the second thing was templatization of business models. कि the one question Vivek and I always got was कि US में बताइए क्या हुआ है, चाइना में दिखाइए ऐसा मॉडल है क्या? And we kept telling them, hey, US and China and India are like completely different, right? India is a country where Sangamitra, Abhay, don't have the same chicken curry cut because our chicken curries are different, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. We are not like other countries. I think this people just didn't get here. तो बहुत ही funny चीजें हुई हैं हमारे साथ. In fact, I won't name the firm, but one of the firms actually backed out at a term sheet stage, saying that one of their LPs is a large Guju family who doesn't want to invest in the sector. So I think this fundamental point I'm making, Sangamitra, is that this category suffered from this nation's cultural hypocrisy. कि अगर आप देखो, meat continues to languish in that Kali Theli in India, right? With condoms, sanitary pads, alcohol, and meat is a chotha sotela bacha, right? So it's this Kali Theli is a symbol, right? It's a symbol of our mindset. So I think, vegetarians apart, I think the nation had to sort of also wake up and embrace the category for what it was worth and what it meant. And I think the larger societal cultural hypocrisy was the greatest impediment, because that drove the mindset of the VC ecosystem. Many of them also said that, this is not something we want our firm to be associated with. आप समझ रहे हो, मतलब just this mindset कि यार fintech is sexy. This is not, right? So anyways, there are many stories I wish I could go on, but I think, it was very difficult, very, very difficult. Now, just one thing. In Hindi, that is called charitra. In English, that is called character. And I think character of the organization is what it does when nobody sees what an organization is doing. See, I spoke about Junoon and I spoke about passion, but Junoon and passion, unless it's rooted in simple, honest, characteral fabric, right? I mean, I think it doesn't come alive. And I think as an organization, we have a DNA, of high accountability, not just to ourselves, but to our consumers, because of the simple tall order that we have ahead of us. See, Sangamitra, we are the category leaders, right? I mean, we are the category creators. What is the task ahead of us? The task ahead of Licious is the task that was ahead of Amul 50 years ago, 40 years ago, right? When Amul started being the key crusader for the category, it didn't worry if 10 more brands got created. In fact, that was the purpose. So I think at Licious, therefore, born out of this strong, character that I believe we are very proud of, we have created a bespoke supply chain, which is the first of its kind in the world, which actually solves the world's most complex inventory problem. Let me paraphrase this for you. Now, I said India is not one India, right? And Sangamitra and Abhay don't eat the same way. So what this really means is, Sangamitra, meat is a category of, meat and fish especially, is a category of hyper customization. Now, imagine, what this means. What this means in the context of this nation and to be a national brand is that you have to actually, at any given point in time, carry a 300 plus SKU selection, which is highly perishable, right? And where the farm to consumer cycle is anything between 24 to 36 hours. Now, this is to be, 300 SKU combinations with a 2 to 3 day shelf life across 140 odd delivery centers in India, running through 6 different supply chains and processing centers, coming from a few hundred farms, a few hundred landing centers and coasts, a few, 1,000 farmers, and all of this aggregating to reach the consumer in a 90-minute delivery promise with a less than 5% wastage. So this is a few million inventory combinations that play any time, right? And I think this is where going direct to consumer really helps. And also having a full farm to fork supply chain helps. So what allows Licious to bind all these uncertainties together is the control that Licious directly has on everything. So every single gram of meat and fish sold on the Licious platform in any format, raw, value added, is sourced, packed, quality checked, and delivered by Licious. And that allows us to control all the variables. So at the back end, we work directly with farmers and we have our own farms. This is where we grow our own produce. This produce every day is picked up and it reaches our processing centers. This is where the meat is portioned, cut, marinated, whatever, quality checked, and then dispatched to the network of 140 delivery centers that we have across India in temperature controlled vehicles. This is where the inventory finally sits. When you're sitting in Indiranagar and if you're placing an order, you see the inventory of Indiranagar. And that's how you're able to place a 90-minute order. And then the product at the last mile is actually taken to your house in a portable mini refrigerator of sorts that Licious has created. And that's what delivers that temperature controlled quality check product to your doorstep. I could give you a sense of in different ways. So today we are in about 28 cities of India. We are serving closer to 2 million orders on a monthly basis. Our ever acquired base of consumers is close to, I think, 3 million consumers. See, this will tell you that it's a category of depth. You don't need to, acquire in width. Today I think we should be buying closer to 100 tons of produce a day, or maybe more. I'm not sure. Must be more per day. So yeah, I think that's quite a lot of fish, chicken, and mutton. Yeah, and our processing facilities are spread over close to 200,000 square feet today. So I think that's a massive operation, one of the largest, I think the largest in India in terms of the entire network and the number of consumers that we serve. I think our revenue is closer to, we should be exiting the March this year, above 1,500 crores in revenue run rate, right? So I think that's a phenomenal growth in numbers as well, and mostly again, driven by repeat customer. The Licious offline experience will hopefully, be a global model for the world to learn. I'm sure. So if Starbucks taught the world how to enjoy and consume coffee at scale across the world and democratize that, I think we are onto something special here. I don't know if you know the concept, but the concept is, you come in and there's a snacking section, like a meat cafe. You can order, your favorite snacks. We'll cook it for you. There's a nice community table that you can sit around. And then there's an aisle where you can shop from. Like, it's not even been imagined, right? I mean, and the inspiration comes from a very Indian insight that we had, which we saw actually in chaat stores. Haldiram's is a good example. So I think, given we've crossed the chasm of, most consumer companies in India struggle to cross the 200-500 crore chasm, right? But given that we crossed the 1,000 crore chasm a while ago, I think the next 1,000 crores will need a little bit more consideration for the brand. And I think there's a need for the brand to come alive offline, but not necessarily by, hacking and cutting, meat offline. Because see, fundamentally, it's at crossroads with our core business model, right? And we also believe it's a massive food safety risk. How do you run hundreds of stores where you leave it to somebody's judgment, right? And how do you ensure a tight food safety layer? So because food safety is paramount and food security is paramount, and also we're a category leader there, so somebody has to show the light and have the himmat to do it differently, right? Otherwise, the conventional template tells you कि यार consumer को यही चाहिए. But we are seeing extremely positive results from our Gurgaon and Koramangala stores, and I think in the next 3 months we'll be live with 10 more stores, and in the next year I think we should be live with at least 25 stores across India. So let's see how that pans out.